It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to our shortened show, our Thursday show. Now, last year, we were covering various sports stars, having their interviews, going in depth with what they thought about certain events and also their careers. This year, 2021, we changed tack. We are going to be going to a new level. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering various global showpieces, various global sporting stars, various sporting events and teams throughout the period of 2021. So it should make for very interesting listening. And today, we introduce that to you right here on ZiFM Sport.
Hi, this is Alexandra Maseko, and I'm the national basketball team captain, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z.
And to talk through the new season 2021 when it comes to our shortened Thursday show, of course, Mike Madoda is here, Shonta Ferinyika, our producer, and of course, Tatenda Ziambi is here. He is in charge of all you see in digital around ZiFM Sport. We'll be talking to that team right here on ZiFM Sport. My name is Barry. Guys, it's very exciting what we have for season 2021 and events such as, let's take for example the Olympics, since we're in an Olympic year, albeit that is 2021, which were meant to be last year, but because of the coronavirus have moved to 2021, and I think they're still calling them Tokyo 2020 Games, Mike. It behoves us to start with the Olympics. That's one of the showpiece events. I know they call it the greatest show on earth, but I consider the FIFA World Cup the greatest show on earth because I love football. But in truth, it is certainly a showpiece event, isn't it?
Oh, you're so right, Barry. A true global showcase, the Olympic Games. I mean, there is something in it for almost everyone. So it's not like the FIFA World Cup, which is just strictly football. So you've got to be a football fan and enjoy soccer, as the Americans call it. But when it comes to the Olympics, they've got the soccer, they've got the athletics, they've got the swimming. They've got something for everyone, and something for everyone at almost every age. That's why the Olympics appeals to adults. It appeals to grown folk. It appeals to teenagers. It appeals to primary school kids. It's so inspirational.
Yeah, in terms of its all-encompassing nature, Sean, you got to think to yourself that the Olympics, there's very little that sort of grasps the imagination of across genders, across age groups, just as Mike has spoken about, because of its multi-sport nature. Now, we even have golf, dude.
Yeah, no, it's always fantastic with the Olympic Games, especially with especially the storylines that lead into it. And I think that's what gives the Olympics this edge, because it's always about, are you going to get that elusive gold medal? You take a look at tennis. Roger Federer still doesn't have a gold medal for the singles, and I know you'll be gunning for that. Probably that's why he hasn't retired yet. So you've got that going on. If you take a look at swimming, you've got the likes of Katie Ledecky and Missy Franklin, who still want to break more records. If you take a look at football, well, I think the women's game is actually the showpiece because they've got their senior women's national team. So it's almost a second World Cup, and no team has ever won a World Cup and won the Olympic Games. I remember 2015 World Cup, US wins it, they lose at the 2016 Olympics. 2011 World Cup, Japan wins it, they lose at the 2012 Olympics. So we want to see whether the US will finally win the World Cup and then win Olympics back to back. So it's going to be fantastic. I hope we have the Olympics.
I think one of the things that many ZiFM Sport listeners and even some team members may not know about Sean Taferinyika is that he is our women's football aficionado. He is the man when it comes to women's football. If you want to know anything, you speak to Sean. Tatenda Ziambi is here, of course, and Tatenda, you handle all of our online platforms. But I just want to get a sense for you, especially when it comes to the Olympics. You got to say to yourself that the showpiece event of the Olympics, yes, it's multi-sport, yes, there's everything for everyone, but the showpiece event is the 100 meters. I mean, we've come from the in our generation, the rivalry between Carl Lewis, Ben Johnson, and it's just stepped up every single Olympic Games up until most recently Usain Bolt and his domination. He's retired now, but it's still the showpiece event, you got to say.
No, definitely. And I think you hit the nail on the head as well, because in a post-Usain Bolt era, who's going to be that guy who's going to stand up and say, right, I'm the new guy. I'm going to be the person who, is going to be the flag bearer for the sport, not only for 100 meters, but even 200 meters, let's just say as well. And I like what you just said as well, when you're talking about going back like Carl Johnson, Ben Johnson. Of course, Ben Johnson, he had that whole thing with the steroids and so on and so forth. But those are the stories that keep it interesting. So now it's also just going to be a question of who can be the guy who carries over with be the new flag bearer of the new generation for the 100-meter dash. And it's very exciting to see, because, all bets are off, and we'll just have to see who's going to be the one who raises his hand and takes the lead.
But that's what I didn't like about the Usain Bolt era, Barry, that the races are almost predictable. It was a coronation. We were all waiting for Usain Bolt to do his thing. I love competition. You talked about Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson, that era, and then you come up to the likes of Maurice Green. There was a level of unpredictability which made the races fascinating and interesting. During the Usain Bolt era, we were just waiting to see if he would break the world record and how dominant he was going to be. So I love competition. I love unpredictability about sport. I love to see many hats in the ring rather than just one or two.
Absolutely, and the 100 meters certainly serves up those specials. Usain Bolt, God, now it's all open. Who can be the new king of the 100 meters? So we're talking about what we're going to be doing every single Thursday, and we're going to be looking primarily at events. Also, some dominant sports teams that we're going to preview and look at those or review those for you. And yes, Mike.
I want to ask you this, Barry. What has been your favorite Olympic Games?
My favorite Olympic Games.
The one that stood out for you, the one which you say, you know what, wow, this had me absolutely gripped.
The sad thing is it's going to probably demonstrate my age, but it's going to be Los Angeles 1984.
Wow!
Where
you guys are the TV.
You had.
I know what guys talking about. Go on, guys. Let them know.
Mate, it was in black. We watched it in black and white because I think color TVs in Zim were a dime a dozen at that stage. But in truth, just I think it's because probably the first Olympic Games that I watched, it leaves an impression on the basis of watching this multi-sport spectacle just taking place before your eyes. And also, I was just coming to my own in terms of loving sport. So that one I think stands out for me, and I'm not sure how you guys feel and which one it would be for you. But certainly,
for me, it's 1996 Atlanta, because I think the organizers of Atlanta went all out in terms of the showbiz element of the Olympic Games and the promotion around the games, and then also Nike. As a technical partner, also went all out, especially with Team USA. I mean, the gear that was given to Team USA was absolutely fantastic. And then on top of that, we then had the exploits of Michael Johnson. And I remember I was in lower 6, and I remember actually bunking lessons so that I could go and watch Michael Johnson race the 200 meters and the 400 meters. That's how fantastic it was. I mean,
because of the time difference, yes.
Because of the time difference.
Those are the daytime games almost.
Yeah. He was racing in the early hour. It was close to midnight in the States, and then it was the early hours of the morning here in Zimbabwe. And so I bunked a couple of lessons. I hope none of my teachers are listening. My old teachers. That would explain my absence, Mrs. Taylor, from your geography class. And so for me, that's the most memorable games that I can think about. So the Olympics for me, absolutely fantastic. Now, Sean and Tatenda, obviously, you've gone back to the 80s, I've gone to the 90s. I wanted to find out maybe from Sean and Tatenda about Kirsty Coventry, because you guys were kids, okay? Yeah. You were at school-going age. Kirsty Coventry bursts on the scene and becomes the most decorated African Olympic athlete. How big an inspiration was for you, and was she for school kids at that time, being a Zimbabwean? Because we didn't have an athlete of that nature, Barry. You admit that, we had the Golden Girls in 1980. And then after that, we didn't really have any Zimbabwean athlete that went on to dominate in the manner that Kirsty Coventry did. But you guys did. You had a Zimbabwean that you were watching on TV.
Yeah, I'll caveat this by saying that my love for sport started around grade 6. That was 2003. And I remember back in 2000, my grandmother was watching the Olympics, but I was busy running around. But in grade 7 specifically, 2004 now, we are watching the opening ceremony. They're coming up with their flags and all of that. And I'm still asking, where's Zimbabwe? Where's Zimbabwe? I didn't know it was alphabetical order then. That had really clocked. Then later on, when Kirsty Coventry came as the flag bearer, it was I can't really put it into words, but it was such a special moment and one of my most cherished memories with my late grandmother. And that entire Olympics, wow, it was just amazing for me, and it solidified my love for sports. I knew what time the races were, from the heats to the finals, and then I watched lots of tennis, I remember, and even I think that was also my first experience with the United States women's national team. They won the gold medal in that games as well. So 2004 Olympics certainly hold a special place in my heart, and I'd say that's where like most of my love for sport came from, because I watched the entire games, and it was pretty special.
No, definitely. And I think just to piggyback off what you said, the idea that we often punt about like representation, to actually see a Zimbabwean on that stage win and actually do very well and get the gold medal. Because up until that point, like what Sean was saying, like, I was in grade 5 or 6, I think, around about that time. You never thought that you would see a Zimbabwean be the very best in a particular discipline. And Kirsty Coventry came around and actually flipped the script on that. And she not only did it once, but she did it in like 2 consecutive Olympic Games where she won medals. And I think that's most important, and definitely for our generation anyway, it showed us that we can definitely do it and we can actually get to that world stage.
I just want to add one more thing. So fast forward 2015, when I started working at ZiFM covering sports, and I remember I'd gone to go cover a swimming competition, and then guess who's the guest of honor? Kirsty Coventry. And I knew that I had to interview her. First time I've ever been starstruck. I was so afraid of that interview. I'm like, what am I gonna say? What if I stammer? But she was so gracious, and it was a lovely little interview, and I got to meet one of my idols.
And now Sean, she's the Minister of Sport, so again, you still have to interview her, and this time she can actually refuse to answer your questions because she's the full cabinet minister. But guys, one of the things we're also going to do on Thursday shows, and of course we're talking about events, and obviously we will look at elements such as the FIFA World Cup. If I'm on the show, definitely we're talking at the FIFA World Cup, and we're looking at elements like the Super Bowl in the United States, which is a massive TV event in North America. So we will talk about these various sporting events throughout our Thursday shows in season 2021. But one of the other elements that we're going to look at is iconic sports teams, guys. And in truth, when you think about iconic sports teams, Mikey, you got to talk about the All Blacks. I mean, my goodness, I think the sports team of the century. Across all sporting codes, the All Blacks are something to marvel at.
Barry, and they deserve it, isn't it? They're the most successful team in the history of sport. Their win percentage is, I think, around 82%. And this is not over 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. This is over a century of playing rugby. And so that's why they're such an iconic team. But they're also iconic because of the manner in which they play the sport. They are entertainers and they are winners. And so the haka as well just embellishes the legend. So I love the All Blacks, Barry. And you and I always make that annual pilgrimage to South Africa whenever they are in Mzansi to play the Springboks. And it's always a great occasion. And whenever we've bumped into the All Blacks in person, the humility, these big global sports stars, they're so down to earth, so accommodating, always eager to share a word and have a chat with Barry and Mike, who are no-namers, to be honest, in the global context. They don't know who we are, but they always are willing to have a chat, willing to have a picture taken. So the All Blacks, for me, will always stand out as the most iconic team in world sport. However, Barry, locally, I can never get past the dream team, a team that made us dream, a team that united the nation, a team that entertained the nation, a team that gave us hope, a team that gave us Peter Ndlovu,
but
a team that gave us digital.
Why? Because here's the thing. There are a lot of naysayers that talk about what did, and we've got a generation, unfortunately,
tell
that's
me
obsessed
one
with
naysayer.
achievement.
Give me one naysayer that actually watched the dream team. Give me one naysayer who was actually there at the National Sports Stadium when the stadium was full at 11:30 in the morning. Give me one naysayer when Peter Ndlovu was doing the Cruyff turn at full tilt versus Bafana and thumping
it out of the
4-1.
sky.
Pulling it out of the sky. Give me one naysayer, Barry, when Cameroon came as the best side in Africa, having gone to the quarterfinals of the World Cup Italia 90, parading the likes of Cyril Makanaki, the likes of Jean-Claude Pagao, the likes of Joseph Antoine Bell, but they came a cropper in the National Sports Stadium when Ajahn Sao sent them packing to Yaoundé. Give me one naysayer who was there during those heady days. The naysayers are nippers like Sean and Tatenda, who never watched the play, who never attended a single match, and who want to tell us statistics about how Zimbabwe has gone on to qualify for African tournaments, and yet the Warriors, the dream team, failed to. But they don't realize that the Africa Cup of Nations those days was an 8-team tournament, and the route to qualification was a lot tougher. They don't tell us that the World Cup was a 3-team in terms of African contingent. And it was a lot difficult. You went through the group stage. Who did the dream team send packing in their group stage? We sent packing Egypt, who had been to the World Cup in 1990 and was the second best team on the continent, sent them packing, and then we lost. We lost on the final match day to Cameroon in Yaoundé.
Yeah,
come
90 minutes from going to the World Cup. So
if you're a naysayer who watched the dream team and then you say they were rubbish, then it was out.
So Tatenda, your task is simple. When we cover the dream team one of these Thursdays in season 2021, you need to promo it and tell all the naysayers to tune in, because we will give them all the facts and stats. Except we won't be frothing at the mouth like Mike was. So Mike was talking about the fact that the nippers are the naysayers. Sean, what would you say is, because we can talk about great teams over a long period of time, and we talk about the All Blacks, but we can also talk about seasonal great teams, of which the dream team would fall into that category. And you talk about the likes of Pep's Barcelona, for instance. Talk to me, Sean, about your favorite sporting team.
Well, I've told you about the significance of the year 2004 in my life. So you can tie just one season back, 2003, 2004. So you obviously know that it's none other than the Gunners, the Gunners, that invincible team, the Arsenal. Oh, goodness. They were just a marvel to behold, from just the quality players they had. Jans Lehmann in goal, defenders, Ashley Cole, you had Lauren, and you look at that midfield with Patrick Vieira, Gilberto Silva, and you get into
is that what cemented your love for the Gunners?
as it did 100%. Because a few years earlier, I'd watched them in an FA Cup final, and I was like, no, this is definitely my team. Although I do say from birth, I used to be dressed up in Arsenal gear, so I've been an Arsenal fan since birth. But yeah, definitely the invincible top team for me.
Yeah, then, I'm a naysayer as well. I'm then going to ask, why were you leading the Wenger out crusade when he's the one who carried you to that tender? Talk to me, brother.
Okay, so when it comes to me, it's just very short and simple. I think it's the dream team. Greatest basketball team I had ever seen. I was a young member when they came through the American Dream Team. The American Dream Team, let me just say. I saw Mike's eyes light up just there. The American Dream Team. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, all of those guys, they were just equally amazing. Then Dream Team 2 set about this tradition of just great American basketball teams, and obviously the ideal that professionals should also participate in the Olympics. And up until that point, it was just amateurs, college players that were playing, but they broke the mold and they changed the way that American basketball approached the Olympic game. And that's my best team, the best team I've ever seen, without a doubt.
So guys, I think what it does is that just the excitement that was generated in this conversation about what we're going to be doing on Thursdays, I think it'll even get better as we take a deep dive into these various sporting events, sporting teams, and of course individuals in sport, because we will talk about your Diego Armando Maradonas in good detail.
The legends.
We'll talk about, people who you may not know and immediately resonate with, the likes of Greg Louganis in diving at the Olympics.
Sir Donald Bradman,
individuals like that. And so season 2021 on the Thursday edition of ZiFM Sport promises to be absolutely a good one. So don't miss our Thursday editions. We will be here. We'll be talking about those sports stars, and in some instances where we've got outtakes, audios of them. Exactly. We'll hear from the sports stars. We'll hear from the teams. We'll hear about the ethos and belief structure of those teams, and hopefully it'll give you an insight into how they do the things that they do. ZiFM Sport, always innovating, always moving forward. That's what we're all about here on ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. Our play of the day is next.